actually, we're going live. So, Shuri, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself again, and then we can do the rounds. But you can shorten it already for sure.
Would you like? I actually have something written about this, but
Yeah,
would you
yeah,
prefer
yeah.
to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Go
I'll
ahead.
join you here first because we're live. Okay,
Okay,
so
okay.
guys, welcome to this month's BBB here in Draper Startup House. This is the most intimate setup we've had. I think that there were just too many events that were scheduled on the same day. There's a Binance event, like you mentioned. Globe has Gcash, sorry, has their event also tonight. But thank you for those who went to Globe and then are now here. Gcash, I keep saying Globe. And yes, so and then there are other events happening as well. So this is actually the most intimate BBB that we've had. We are joined tonight by four ladies in Web3. So tonight's theme is Women in Web3 and catching up with crypto and Web3. Mike, would you like to give your updates, or should the ladies introduce themselves first? Yeah. So as you can see, it's very, very casual. We're calling our co-presenter Bitkinas over there. Very, very casual. But since I think it's setting up, I will let them introduce themselves. And then after which, Mike from Bitkinas should be down here to give a quick Q1 update about the Web3 world, and then the ladies will begin their very interesting discussion. So introduce yourself. You have the floor.
Right. So good evening, everyone. So as you all can see, we're all women. So it's also because it's Women's Month this March, and we're concluding Women's Month. And as chatting with the ladies earlier, you're going to learn a lot, from our discussions earlier, in the room, what they'll be sharing. I'm sure you heard a lot. For anything, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Sherry Guapo from Scarlet Box. So what we are is we are a blue chip NFT launchpad. We work with beautiful works of national artists and contemporary artists and many different blue chip type of art. And we work with them to turn them into digital collectibles so they can be appreciated by all. Because a lot of these blue chip art is very inaccessible or unaffordable. This way, we're able to bridge the generations and allow bigger markets to have a part of it and a part of this. So, with the lovely ladies, I'd like to first introduce Ipi. Now, if I what I shared is not enough, please add me a sentence or two. Okay, so Tipi Pia. She's the co-founder of Real Deal Guild, and it's one of the earliest guilds in Web3 and GameFi. RDG, what they call, Real Deal Guild, is a social guild which aims to play, earn, and enjoy. It is a community collaborating with different NFT projects that they believe they can add value to.
Hi everyone. Aside from being the founder of the Real Deal Group, I'm also into partnerships and the marketing side of the Real Deal. That's it.
Okay, so you know who to contact. You need to contact your guild. Next, I'd like to introduce Marian Van Stenbroek. It's Belgian. The name is Belgian because I asked her earlier what it was. She's an IP lawyer, and she's an associate general counsel at Engine, which is one of the top 100 coins. She's a fintech and blockchain lawyer who previously worked in one of Philippines' leading corporate law firms. She advised fintech and blockchain clients entering Southeast Asia, as well as traditional corporate clients in mergers and acquisitions and publicly listed security matters. She also advises banks, payment institutions, and non-bank financial institutions on regulatory matters in respect to establishment and day-to-day compliance obligations. That's it. Okay.
Hi
Complete.
everyone.
All right. Good to have you here, Marian. It's always good to have a legal expert in case any of us have burning questions in our mind. So last but not the least, here to my left is Vanessa Barameda. She's the general manager of X3. So I just asking her about it. So X3 is the arm of Surpass that serves the Web3 space. No? She has been in Surpass for 15 years, and Surpass is the first tech company to be listed at the Philippine Stock Exchange. They build blockchain and Web3 projects, and it's an end-to-end. They can do end-to-end solutions for clients such as custom building apps, smart contracts, supplying IT manpower, both Web2 and Web3 clients.
Correct. Nothing to add. Thank you for that. Hi,
Okay.
everyone.
Okay. So pleasure to meet everyone, and it's going to be a very interesting discussion as we learn the lay of the land. Which I'm not sure, Mike.
We're waiting for the project,
Ah,
the projector.
okay.
The,
I think it's best if we can actually start your discussion and then you can choose the time. Choose the time. That's what you want.
Okay. Sige. All right. So, what we'll do, including myself, we're going to give you sort of like the lay of the land, or at least in our different industries, no, on what we think is happening or what our observations are, so that you can have a general picture. Especially, we're already finishing our first quarter for 2023. It's kind of good to have a good sense of what's happening, and maybe a precursor to what will happen, especially after a very tumultuous 2022. So maybe Tiffy, would you like to start first on how things are and what the things that you see in on guilds?
Okay, by the way, I'd like to introduce myself first again. I'm Stevie, I'm from Real Deal, and um, the first quarter of 2023 is still, bear. Still bear season, but even though it's bear, what I like or what I'm proud of in our community is that we have a very tight community wherein even though it's bear, we still continue to do events such as mini meetups, and then we also do events. We call it events, our online events such as AMA or Ask Me Anything with our partners, and also we also have live stream podcasts. We do um, tutorials. We also do some contests, online contests, and also tournaments. So even though it's bear season, we still keep our community active and tight. And while waiting for another bull season, we keep on building and we keep on partnering with different projects, with different not just NFT but with different projects that we think we really can add value with, because again we're a community of gamers. So um, we we don't just partner with any projects, but we really partner with them and really add value with them, so we can collaborate into something. So even though it's bear season, we still build. And we also our community is still active, and we also do tutorials, or we have active communities wherein we do NFT flipping. So even though it's there, so there are still, I believe there are still opportunities in Blackpink during bear season. So you can do NFT flipping, you can do trading, and we do it with our community. Although you have your assets, you have control of your assets, but when you're with the community, you feel like you belong, or you feel like there's someone with you. You if ever you got rag pull or what, I mean, it feels like you're not alone. So that's the very thing that I'm proud of with our community, because you do things not you do things together. You don't do things alone. So
Thank you, Tiffy. And are your members all over the Philippines? Are they in their
okay, so more actually most of our members are Filipinos, but we have partners from different countries, and we have 30 projects that are foreign developers. So even though we're mostly composed of Filipinos, we have members from different countries, and we have Filipinos from different countries as well. So we are really composed of different people, but most of them are Filipinos. Thanks, TP. Arian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we've seen the first
quarter have a lot of financial instability. And I think for most companies, or at least even your companies, one of the things that you have to think of, even at the start, when you're opening, for example, a banking relationship, you also have to, as a company, do your own due diligence. Because if you're, for example, opening a bank account with a bank that has actually very simple or relaxed due diligence documents requirements, like when you're onboarding, that's a feature, like fast onboarding. But when it comes to times of crisis or times of financial instability, especially like that we've experienced lately, it's actually a bug when you think about it. Because if they've been lax in your documents, what about the other companies that have also tried to open with those same banks? So like even at the start of a banking relationship, you that's something that you have to look out for. And secondly is right now there we're seeing increased scrutiny. For example, in the States, the US Department of Treasury has actually recommended more robust scrutiny over non-bank financial institutions. And although we haven't seen the same yet happen locally, it will happen. I really think like increased regulation will happen. And what that means is that if the government agency, in this case PSP, will increase scrutiny or regulation over their partners, over the non-bank financial institution, this is eventually gonna be pushed over to the customers themselves. So you actually have to expect maybe new policies or procedures from your banks or your non-bank financial institutions. So it's better to clean the house, so to speak, so that when you get asked for new documents, for new information, it's not something that you're gonna be left scrambling.
Thank you. So it looks like it's going to be tighter moving forward. Thanks, Marianne.
Right. Okay. So I'm speaking on behalf of the developers in the industry. So, Chief said earlier today that we're in a bear market. Actually, we've already been in this situation much longer, right? Since last year. So it's not nothing new to us. But for devs, actually, the funny thing is, this is the actual time where we're most busy. So because projects right now, they're not really into chilling. They're doing marketing, shilling, all those stunts that because of course of the market conditions. But this is the time where they quietly build or rebuild. If, for example, they've already started with a project earlier, and actually, right now we have 6 ongoing projects, believe it or not, that we're handling simultaneously, and there are a lot more in the pipeline. And this is coming from again bear market, wherein funds aren't supposed to be much readily available compared to when you received it earlier of was that 2021 or earlier of 2022. So yeah, so again, as I mentioned, for me, for developers, from the developers' point of view, we're quite bullish for 2023, regardless of where market conditions will go, because for us, this is a time where most projects will probably want to step back and build, and that's where we're actually where we thrive. So yeah, that's where.
So among your clientele, like how many percent local?
All right. For X3, because we only handle the blockchain clients of Surpass. Surpass is a huge company. It's but sorry, just for just to set the foundation. Surpass is actually a 20-year-old company. We're a software development company, publicly listed in the Philippines. We've been at it for 20 years. Blockchain is something that we got into since 2018. We kind of medyo nag-die down. We died down a couple of years back, but last year, back at it, doing blockchain projects again. So in my division, X3, for the blockchain arm, I think 60% are local projects that are doing blockchain, mostly startups, and then 40% are from abroad. So I have clients from the US, from Singapore, from hopefully soon UK. So there you go.
So this is all under X3.
Yeah, I can only speak for X3, but if you want to know the entire suite of clientele, yes, I can. I can also tell you a little bit about it. For X3, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Maybe we can dig in a little bit more later. In terms of the NFT, some of you may be curious also and so last year, the trading volume, the market for NFT is about worldwide about 24 billion, and about would say high percentage, or maybe close to 90% were given to creators. But Spotify gave out 7 billion to their creators. So you can see NFT market alone already times three of what Spotify would pay their creators. Also, if in the US, um, it's also art and culture is a very big economic driver. Let's say retail is about 1.2 trillion, and their arts and culture is about 877 billion. So it's a very big economic driver. And if you look at arts and culture, that's where a lot of the NFTs can be made, not be able to preserve a lot of these arts and culture. In the Philippines, the creator economy is rather big. Also, it's about 900 in 2018, it's about 920 billion US dollars, and that was 2018, so it's probably crossed a billion. Yes, and that's a huge opportunity because it includes um, art, literature, architecture, music, entertainment, all these creator economies. And NFT is a very good way to preserve all of these art. So there's a lot of potential in this area of digital collectibles, maybe for whether it's the world or some developed countries or us. So that's a little bit of the kind of like lay of the land of our own industry. Let me see if Mike is muted. Okay, so now I'll give you to Mike for the more official lay of the land for the first part.
Yun. So this will be just um, a very an oversimplification of the thing. So do banks fail often? So I based my research on the US data, and it appears that actually banks do not fail very often. And in fact, most of the failures of the banks happened in 2008, from 2008 to 2012, which was the financial crisis, right? Um, so yeah, and in 2021 to 2022, there was none. No bank in the US had failed. But in the span of 4 days, as mentioned, sending shockwaves across the global market. So three US banks collapsed. So Silvergate, Signature, and Silicon Valley Bank. And although, yeah, of course, there are banks, and what how they are different from many others is that their clientele is something that's very specialized. Like they cater to very specific clients. So in the case of Silver Bank and Signature, they are the bank of the crypto companies. And for Silicon Bank, they are the bank of tech startups and ventures in the US. So the pattern is most, again, an oversimplification, but in 2020 to 2021, the pandemic days, these banks have received large deposit influx. So, and even, the normal people, because in the US, there were stimulus checks that were provided. And then what do these banks will do? Of course, they are going to invest it. And in the case of the three banks, or at least the two of them, if I remember correctly, they invested in high quality at that time, financial instruments at low interest but very long duration. And it was in theory, it was the correct way. Right? I mean, it's the correct way of how they are going to do it. But recently there have been an increase in rates by their Federal Reserve and because of inflation, and that exposed them to duration crisis for the financial instruments that they have. And of course, banks with customers that were highly, concentrated in specific verticals have failed. So more on that later. So, so I'm going to talk more about the Silicon Valley Bank because this is one that I kind of understand more actually. So Silicon Valley Bank, the startups and ventures, they put their money in SPB, specifically in the pandemic days. In the pandemic days, the tech stocks, the tech companies, their valuations are very high. They have lots of money back then, and And SPB, they invested this in many in government guaranteed residential mortgages and bonds also at a time when interest rates are very low but long maturity period. Again, this is a normal strategy for banks on what they're going to do with the money that they have. Because when we put, it's the theory is that when we put our money in the bank, it actually does not stay there. So most of the time, the banks are going to invest it in, other vehicles, other financial instruments, and and in normal times, of course, the idea is that not all of us are going to withdraw our cash at the same time, so they can safely do that. So, but what happened is that interest rates jumped since 2021. So more on this, but older bonds that SBB and the others have invested in, they have low interest rates and can only be much lower. So than the new bonds that now kept their interest rates. So more on this. So now, 2022, 2023, the startups and the ventures and many other companies, their funds have dried up. So what they're going to do is they're going to get their money from these banks to stay afloat. And some of them will want to withdraw to deposit elsewhere with higher interest rates, for example. And and what just happened is that all of the companies want to take out their money all at the same time. So what is SBB is going to do? That they will be forced to meet their clients' withdrawal requests. So the bonds that they have in 2020, 2021, they have to sold it now instead of selling it 10 years later, because that was it. Like 10 years, that's where they're going to sell it with the principal and also the interest. But now they have to sell it lower because hindi pa tapos the maturity period is not yet there, and there are newer bands that have that are more attractive, so they have to sell it lower, so at a lesser value. And let's go back. Yeah. So what happens is the situation that is called bank run, as everybody wants to withdraw, and yun nga na, the bank has shut down. So one of unfortunately, one of the clients was actually Circle. So Circle is the makers of, or the creators of USDC, the most regulated stablecoin. So the irony there is that it is supposed to be the most stable of all the stable coins out there, even Tether, even PUSD and all. So, but they're the ones that actually depeg because of the news that Circle has 3.3 billion of USDC's cash reserve stock at SBB at that time. Although of course, as you can see, nag-ano naman siya. It it peg eventually. So in Silvergate, the same thing has actually happened, but more on, they have this highly specific clients, which is the crypto industry. Every almost I guess every crypto industry person or business have banks in Silvergate or Signature. Even when I talk before to international exchanges, they are going here. What are the first thing that they only mention is that we are backed by Silvergate, we are backed by Signature. That is always how it is. Um, but there are specific triggers for them. For Silvergate, it was the reveal that it was facing inquiries from regulators. For Signature Bank naman, it was the collapse of both SVB and Silvergate. So those are the specific, because Bankan is, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like when someone announced that they're going to to withdraw, and others, from what I've heard is that there are also investment companies that instruct their investees or their investment companies to withdraw their money all. So that is what happened. So it became a bank run, and everyone just want to get their money out. But should crypto be blamed on this particular one? As I mentioned earlier, so there are two schools of thought. Some people will say that it is because of crypto, because of the FTX thing, the Luna and all. And for some extent it is, right? Because crypto has lost a lot of value. That's the real score here. And many really had their money stuck, for example, in Luna and Terra and FTX. So that is also a factor. But remembered what I mentioned earlier, that these people have received a lot of, I mean, these startups have received a lot of money in the beginning that they put into the banks, and the banks put this in low interest government bonds. So and then the Fed actually increased their rates. So that means the older government bonds are lower in value. So as mentioned here by way, the rapid interest hike in 2022 devalued the assets of these banks, which led to the crisis of confidence in the safety of customer funds. So to blame this squarely on crypto is just wrong. Another person said that it was really not a crypto problem. It was due to the bank having not enough cash, so leading to the lack of capital from the bank. And that's also the problem. Silvergate, Signature, they are not diversified, even Silicon Valley. So, the big banks, their portfolio, their partners, their clients are diversified. So even if one vertical falls, for sure the others are, still okay. So this was the news at some time. I mean, some days ago, that the U.S. government had stopped the potential banking crisis by assuring all depositors at failed institutions that they could access all their money quickly. Some say that it is like a bailout, and some people are saying is that, so that was it. So even if the bank fails, the government will just go and rescue them anyway. So it kind of like lessen the risk for the bank, because even if I fail, the government is going to come here anyway. And that's why there are people who are saying that maybe it's time for plan B, which is Bitcoin. So the moment that this is happening, the value of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies has gone up, because people are saying that it is a hedge against inflation. People are saying that it is safer. You can take your money out, unlike in the bank, if the bank can happen, you cannot take access to your money anymore. But in Bitcoin, in theory, you can, right? And it is up like 30%, 40% since the beginning of the year. So Bitcoin gains amid growing investor concerns over the global banking crisis. And there are other banks that shut down, and not just three. So so when the moment that the three banks also shut down, the Bitcoin was actually up 28% since March 12. So I'm not sure if anyone remembers this, but in the Genesis block of Bitcoin by Satoshi Nakamoto, he actually incorporated this at that time when the banks are being bailed out by the government. So which is the same thing that is actually happening now. So Bitcoin was born because of the financial crisis of 2008. So and now we are here in another bailout, although the technical term is not bailout on that one. But not everything is doom and gloom in Web3. So there are many good news. Like for example, in the game developers conference, I've heard from good people who were there that the attitude towards blockchain for blockchain games have been um have been very positive, unlike before. So some of the news, for example, the creators of EVE Online are now going into blockchain. So this is a positive note, because EVE Online is a highly successful MMORPG that it has been like 20 years or more already or something. So it is a long running MMORPG, successful, and now their developers are making a blockchain game. Elsewhere in Web3 here in the Philippines, we have seen companies that are now dabbling into crypto. We have Gcash who has Gcrypto now. We have PDAX launching their own NFT platforms. And then the bigger ones, we have ABS-CBN saying that they are doing and they're going to do NFTs. Cebu Lulier is saying that they're going to adopt Stellar blockchain. Although I feel I've heard this report in 2018 also. So, but that's the news. What next? But if you know this person, the shadow of this, the things that he've done is going to cast a shadow for us for a very long time. Like people are still talking about it. And recently, the most recent news is that he has bribed some Chinese officials to access his funds over there. So if there's one thing that I'm not really versed in US politics, but there's one thing that the two sides there agree upon is when there are, foreign things like what like the recent news about him. So and also this very recent news that I'm not sure if there are Binance people here, but yes, they have been sued by the CFTC over US regulatory violations. It's not about customer protection really. It's more about jurisdiction wherein they are accusing Binance of having US citizens trade on Binance. So if you cannot do that because you have to be licensed there by the CFTC or you have to be registered with the CFTC. So it's more of a jurisdiction thing and not really customer funds. And it's also if you know the US SEC is also in the news lately. So there's also some battleground over there on who has jurisdiction over crypto. And if you remember, this is not on my slides, but the US SEC chairman is really adamant in saying that only Bitcoin is not a security and everyone else is. But CFTC here is saying that Bitcoin and Ethereum and even Litecoin is actually a commodity. If it is a commodity, they have jurisdiction over there. So I'm not sure if this is happening here because we heard more about from the BSP and the SEC. Right? So yeah, so I would like to introduce Bitfinas. We are here. We have been established here since 2017. We are a crypto news publication, and we have been covering the events and the news that are happening here since 2017. So we are independent. We have been covering from the grassroots to announcements from our regulators. So we have been there since every milestone since 2017 here in the country. So those other events, the milestone from Coins, the milestone from MetaMask. So I'm normally invited to speak whenever we talk about the first Filipinos, how was it before, how was it going to be now. So my name is Mike. For those who don't remember, so I've been covering crypto since 2017, and the first writer to cover the Philippines about crypto full time. So thank you so much. Back to you, Sherry.
Thank you, Mike. That was a very good summary and also even cause and effect of what happened in the banking system that affected the world. So, we just discussed earlier the lay of the land from our different industries, and then thanks to Mike, is able to also um, give us an in-depth um, reason as to how why things happen. So maybe I'll ask the three ladies, in your experience in Web3, what are the things that you did not expect in your journey? So maybe Kippy first or Marianne. Marianne.
I
Go.
have a microphone. So I was actually telling Mike earlier that when I started in crypto in 2018, it was actually Bitfinas that I read a lot. Just because there wasn't any local like website on it. Like you'd always get websites for the US or for other countries like the EU, maybe Singapore, maybe. You didn't have one that was actually really directed to the local market. So when I found his website and I actually like found it when I was researching for like laws on crypto in the Philippines, that's when it started for me. And I think like one of the things, and I think like that's also one of the features and one of the things that really surprised me when going into Web3, like how big of a community there is around it, how like there are so many people into it, and how everyone's really helpful. And like if you need something, if you need someone to do X, they'll be like, oh, I know Y who can actually do that for you. And like everyone's really supportive. So that's something that I didn't expect coming into it, which is a
Okay.
good thing.
Yeah.
Which is a good,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean to add to what Marianne is saying, because I also come from many of the topics. Because all of us at some point came from Web3. So when I came from a traditional retail industry, your normal situation, you don't really sit near the same table. Okay, in a congregation, you kind of sit in different tables, you know, maybe because that's the nature that you don't want to share trade secrets. But in the tech industry, you sit beside each other. You know, if you're in the same industry, you sit beside each other, the same verticals, you share notes. So I think that's a big difference. In a way.
One thing that I didn't expect in Web3 is that people giving up their career just to be a gamer. In I think it's incredible. I mean, you gave up your career. Like me, for example, I used to be a preschool teacher. So I was a preschool teacher before, and don't get me wrong, I like my job. I love my job. But I'm when I saw an opportunity in Web3, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give up my job and just do it full time. And up until now, I have no regret. So I think it's an awesome story. I mean, giving up your job, you're professional, and you graduated and then you gave up your job to do full time.
So let's say you say that you enjoy what you're doing now. What is it about it that you like? Is it the flexibility or is it the community?
I think it's both. It's the flexibility because I have freedom, and also it's the community because our community is actually composed of people wherein they have this pay it forward mindset. Like I have I have experienced this, and then I'm gonna let other people to experience it also, and then those people, without telling them to do it, they do it voluntarily. So it's like it's like a disease wherein it's contagious, and everyone is like doing it voluntarily. So that's what I like about my current actually it's not a job. So my current life at the moment, yeah, lifestyle. And aside from that is yeah, I have freedom, and also I like building. You're building something out of nothing, out of your just imagination, or yeah, I'm literally building something out of nothing because aside from a guild, um actually I'm part of an NFT, an NFT art that was published or that was minted last year. So we actually just had our first anniversary. So it's an NFT art also. It's a project of Field Deal Guild. So Field Deal Guild is not just a guild, it's not just a guild of gamers, but we have also developed an NFT wherein we aside from developing that NFT, we also of course help other people through that community, through the funds that we were able to raise from that NFT art project. So I mean, I'm building out of nothing. We're in, and also I'm proud of is I'm one of the pioneers. Not all people can do it. Like not all people can risk their career to do something that you know it isn't really beneficial for me. It's actually I'm actually building something for the community. So that's what I like about it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. That's really nice. Huh?
Well, well, thankfully, I didn't have to give up my career to do what I'm doing now because it is my career. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and at the same time, I also want to add to what you said that it's totally a different community where we're at right now compared to our old days where I mean when you're in tech you'd like to keep everything within secret until everything's launched. Otherwise, your competitor might swipe your idea or your project, right, or your client. But in our case, I talked to several founders, and I'd be happy to introduce them to one another without thinking if I'm going to make money out of it or not. I mean, it's 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 kind of something that we all do mutually. Like in my at the back of my head, yeah, maybe one day someone will introduce me to a potential client of mine. But for now, I mean, I see that you guys are like a perfect match together. I can't help it. I have to introduce you to this founder, right? So actually, I think some of my matchmaking have actually paid off, and it kind of feels great, right? And the question again
Yes,
was
what you did
what you did not
did not
expect.
expect. Yeah, in your journey.
Ang layo, diba?
Yeah,
Okay,
but
so
yeah, the good answer.
Right. Yeah. So I was telling them offline earlier. The thing that I didn't expect really. I mean, the bear market. It's a cycle. Everything happens in a cycle. So that's kind of something you expect. But as a dev shop like X3, what we didn't expect was how fast AI was going to affect our lives. Right. I mean, even we were kind of taken aback when ChatGPT came out, especially when 4 was launched. And now we know that there's a next iteration, and it will be exponentially more intelligent than what we're experiencing now. So it's a lot of us are a bit shaken, right? Taken unprepared, I guess. So I guess it's we have to quickly find where we should all evolve in this environment. And for my company, of course, obviously ours we're trying to do this faster than the tech, right? Obviously, otherwise we'll be irrelevant. So yeah, so that's something that I did not expect happening at least in the next 10 years. Right? It's happening so fast right
Yeah. I super agree. It just took us by storm, all the chat and how well they can compose, but it's still valuable. We tried it to research when we were researching on our event and the speakers, and it's without wrong wrong content. So you still need to trust them. Earlier, yes, when we were chatting, one by Marian was that the latest development in NFTs security or not. So please share with us the
Okay,
latest
so is
development.
anyone here familiar with NBA Top Shot? So there has been a recent US case actually over NBA Top Shot, and it doesn't squarely address it since it's not yet a final decision, but it kind of gives us some guidance on when an NFT can be considered a security. Now, in the Philippines locally, we don't have any laws directly addressing or directly regulating NFTs. So usually, you just have to be careful to make sure that your NFT doesn't function as a payment instrument, because if it does, you're gonna have to be licensed by the BSP, or that it's not a security, which case you'll have to deal with the SEC. Now, the U.S. case is Trail versus Dapper Labs, and Dapper Labs is, if you guys aren't familiar, is the company behind NBA Top Shot with their Flow blockchain. Now, what happened in the case was they sued Dapper Labs, saying that the NBA Top Shots are actually securities and actually should be registered with the SEC. Now, what the court provisionally, temporarily, I will emphasize it, is not yet a final decision, it's still subject to appeal, is that because of certain characteristics of NBA Top Shots, it may be considered a security. And one of the things they looked at was the fact that NBA Top Shots could only be sold in a secondary marketplace controlled by Dapper Labs. So, like, it's not like other NFT collections where you could just an OpenSea, super rare, whatever other market. So if you guys want to create an NFT collection, or if your company has an NFT collection, that's one of the things that you can do to mitigate your risk. Like, try to make it as open to other secondary marketplaces as possible. And the second takeaway, and I think it's the more interesting and more practical takeaway from that case, was the fact that the court actually took screenshots of Twitter tweets to actually show that the Dapper Labs team, or the team behind NBA Top Shot and NBA Moments, were actually touting these as security-like instruments. Why? Because they would emojis such as the money bag emoji, the rocket moon emoji, or the stock market chart emoji. So it's not the first time that U.S. courts have actually used tweets and emojis on those tweets to classify to provisionally say that it might be a security, but it's showing the reason that they say this is because it's obviously showing that these NFTs are there for a return of investment for profits. Like, you can't just say it's an NFT, it's not a security. And I was telling them earlier, why are we looking to the US? I mean, we're in the Philippines, we're not in the US. But to give you some background, the US and Philippine security laws are largely similar. Like the Philippine security laws is largely copied from the US Securities Exchange, and we usually what usually the test that we usually do both in the US and in the Philippines to determine whether token, NFT, or whatever item is a security is the how. So it's test whether where you see where the instrument is an investment contract. And I feel like I'm losing some of you here, but basically what the test must fulfill is that there must be an investment of money, and most, if not all, projects will fulfill this criteria. So number one, it's an investment of money in a common enterprise. Most crypto projects will also fill this criteria because it's always usually good. And then third is with the expectation of profits um, o- under the efforts of others. So usually where you try to argue that you're not a security is on number three and number four, that if you don't expect profits and that you don't expect it via the effort of others. So unfortunately for Chapter Labs, what it was actually taken against them, that they were actually promoting an expectation of profit, using all those emojis and trying to sell their NFTs to someone, something that you can earn. So that's a very Cliff Notes version of the.
Thank you so much for that Howie test. No? And if there's any takeaway for all of us, let's say that are in the space, is try to make sure that your NFTs can be sold in other marketplaces. Also, avoid all
Careful of
the
what you
careful
post
of
on
the
Twitter and the emojis.
emojis or also the text or whatever. So don't promise increase in price or profit sharing.
Sorry. I have a question, attorney, because I know that of the decision of the U.S. courts on the money bag emoji and the others that you mentioned, it's just very recent. So is that applicable if the tweets were made before that decision happened? It's still applicable, right? So
It's not criminal law where you only get penalized after the law has been passed. But this one, it's really just an application of the system. So the law is already there. It's just how it's being interpreted. Even if it happened before the decision, like you posted rockets and money bags and stock charts on your Twitter, it would still apply if they do finally decide,
Okay. Right. Thanks a lot, Marianne. So, uh, we'd like to open the floor for anyone. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. It's an intimate group, and we have a lawyer among us. So, in case you have any legal questions, feel free to get it crypto related. Okay, no land question, no family office question. So, but anyone, feel free to. All right. For the ladies, maybe I don't. We have a hard anytime. Okay. So, well, maybe it's like thinking about questions. You go ahead. One of the things that I'm curious about is, all of you had very varied experiences, no? In whether it's community or in your work or experiences with others. What are your, let's say, important learning that you learned?
Important learnings is to always see the silver lining. I mean, um, because like for me, I gave up already my career. So it's like now or never. So I have to go forward. I have to move forward because it's no turning back. Eh. There's no turning back. So yeah, I have to always see the silver lining because I said it because it's bear season and it's I actually have a lot of assets, a lot of crypto assets. I own a lot, but I was affected. Yeah, I mean, I mean, but you know, I mean, I got affected by the bear season. And how about those who didn't have a lot? I mean, you know, like I've been thinking about them since bear season. So if you're my follower on Twitter, I keep on posting GM. I hope you're doing well. Like, you know, because it's very sad that because some of our members actually gave went back to Web 2. Like me, I gave up my job from Web 2 and then I went to Web 3. But imagine those who gave up their career, they went back to Web 2. So it's kind of sad, but yeah, but my takeaway or my learning is that always see the silver lining because I believe and I'm still bullish in crypto. I'm bullish, like bullish.
Okay, so you have to tell us your Twitter handle. What is it?
I'm Tipsy RDG. Tipsy RDG like
Can you spell it?
TI
Yeah.
it's at TIPZIXIE RDG.
Okay,
RDG. It's a
RDG.
real
Okay. TIPXIT
RDG.
RDG. So if you want positive, lifting
Yeah.
tweets,
Yeah, but
follow.
sometimes it's like I don't know if some people take it as toxic positivity, but it's most of the time I just tweet for myself. It's my form of encouragement. Like I wake up and then I'm gonna tell myself it's okay. It's bear market, but you have to keep moving. You have to continue to seek opportunities in Web 3 because there are a lot of opportunities in Web 3. You just have to find it. You just have to take it and you just have to search for the right opportunity for you. Because I'm bullish with Web 3 and no one can take it away from me.
Nice, nice. It's good to have that kind of gusto. Thank
So
you.
we're doing social media now. If you want to connect, please feel free to connect on LinkedIn, Marian Van Slembrook. No, but I think one of the things that I always think about is how important like continuous learning in this space. Because of how fast everything changes. Like when I first got into this space, we don't talk about it in school. Maybe now, 'cause it's getting mainstream. But during my time, we didn't even have a subject on blockchain. So like when you even first try to learn like what even is the blockchain, like even that basic thing, and then you realize there's so many things that you have to like continually learn, especially for us in the legal field. Before when I was still handling land and family and crime, like you would get maybe a landmark case in 1 or 2 years, and that would be considered quite fast moving. But in blockchain, you every other week something is happening. So if there's one thing that I try to do to keep up with this is I have this app that's called like Feedly. It basically collates RSS feeds so that if there are certain keywords that are hit that I watch out for, I at least like get updated. Okay, there's news about this, there's news about that. So yeah, continuous learning.
How do you spell feedly?
As in feed like
Feed L-Y.
and then L. Yeah.
For that
I am
tip.
not this is non-sponsored by the way.
Yeah, okay. So very similar to what attorney said, I guess my key takeaway here is that never sit on your laurels, never be complacent, always upskill, especially for developers. I mean, again, as I mentioned earlier, AI is here. So let us not allow AI to replace us. We have to upskill ourselves. Always never stop learning. And uh, in my case, you're subscribed to that RSS feed. In my case, I cannot possibly read every single article you receive on your phone, right? So sometimes what I do is while probably cooking breakfast, I play the news on YouTube and then I just listen to news. It's easier for me to listen to news and just do all the household stuff, especially in the morning before I go to work. So that's how I keep up to date. And of course, before you start working, check out the major like bit. Thank you. Plinag kita.
No, I mean likewise, Bitpinas has been, because also Bitpinas is very has a lot of content in the past and updating what's happening. So it also maybe because of the algorithm, that's one that popped up on my Instagram and Facebook. So thanks a lot. You know, I do see a lot of the news. So thanks a lot for the work. Um, so one of the things that we discussed tonight about banking, what's happening last year, the drug tools, etc. So one of the things tonight in part something that can keep us safe, or how better to keep us safe, maybe tips, research, or things that will keep us safe. So maybe we'd like to listen to the ladies and their thoughts and tips and takeaways for us. Fan, since
Right,
you're
I'll go
holding the mic.
first. Yeah, only subscribe to legit sources. Yes. Don't just believe everything you hear. I mean, especially now, so many, fake photos come out, fake videos. I mean, you'd think it's the real thing since it's a video, but it's not. I mean, again, AI is making everything so difficult for us to, decipher which is real and which is not. So only subscribe to legitimate sources, and that's where you should get your news, and that's how you should, you know, um, keep yourself updated.
I think we hear this a lot, but I don't think there's any harm in repeating it. But not your keys, not your coins. Especially with all the exchanges, either shutting down or being under regulatory enforcement, there's really a high risk of your funds being held, not only because the exchange is shady, but maybe because there's been an order actually um, refusing the withdrawal of funds by users. So make sure, like, if you have to use an exchange, don't use it as storage, maybe as pass through to exchange from one coin to another, or to exchange from crypto to fiat. And if you do invest in a project, if there's one thing that you should at least start to research on, it's the founders themselves. Like, see if they're actually docs or if they're just NFT monkeys on Twitter.
Okay. So yeah, it's very important because especially when NFTs, maybe now more of the projects, a lot of the founders are maybe docs, or maybe that's what the market needs. But when it started, there's so many unidentified founders and this alias careful.
Um, it's if you've been in crypto, it's very overused, but I have to say it. It's you do your own research. Yeah, it's very important. Like even me, even if you're following me on Twitter, so I post something about the project. Don't just believe me. I mean, you have to really go to the legit website wherein you really have to read it yourself, not because an influencer posted something about it. No, you do your own research. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, just to warn everyone, because I just recently experienced this. So, whenever someone messages you on Twitter, for example, or on Instagram, double check the name. The scammers are super smart right now. There's this one time I thought it was actually my friend telling me, shilling me something, and then I realized like minutes later into the conversation, I realized, who's this? It's like that's not you. And then I realized that the letter O of that person's name is now zero. So I didn't even realize I was talking to a different person. So double check, I guess, is my additional tip.
I think to add to that, one of the common letters that they change as well is the letter L becomes an I. Yeah. And I think, like, to add, sorry, I know, like, we're already, but one of the other things that I've noticed has come up recently is actually using like job offers, or you have recruiters, for example, contact you on LinkedIn. They say, "Oh, we have a position," and then please see attached job description. But that PDF is already malware. So like that's also one of those things that you have to watch out for.
I have to also add this the links that you've been receiving on Discord, because a lot of us are using Discord. Yeah, there are, you want to give away from this, from that, and then they will add links. Do not click it. Like, don't, because some of them are phishing sites. Or yeah, that, so you have to be very careful in clicking the link.
With what I remember, with what Marian shared about job offers, I think that's how um, Axie Infinity, yeah, that's how they got um, stolen hundreds of millions of dollars because um, someone tried to give a job offer to one of the developers, and I think he clicked it. Maybe one of the top, I think one of the C levels, maybe one of the top developers who owns C, and he clicked it, and that gave permission to the malware. He clicked that link, the malware that allowed them to get access. So be careful. And say for Discord, there are ways to, when you set up your Discord, there are ways to disallow a link. If you can. Right. So be careful. So maybe without further much ado, maybe I'd like to invite ladies to say their last. Is there any questions from anyone? Hey, Isma, you're here.
Hello, good evening. My question is, uh, wait. As, what do you think would be the best approach to introduce crypto for people like me who are not crypto?
Given the market conditions, yeah, where people are a little bit worried.
Well, non-crypto
Okay.
net. I always do this with my family. By the way, I'm the only one from tech in my entire family. So they ask me what I do. So I kind of have to do this a lot. So, well, number one, don't explain what a blockchain is. They will never understand that. I mean, even people who have graduated technical degrees have difficulty understanding the entire thing, right? I guess the best way to explain what a blockchain is to explain the benefits, right? Or for example, for a gamer, I actually did this in the GTC. I was there last week. So to a gamer or a game publisher who doesn't have no idea what a blockchain is, and they ask me, why do I need blockchain? My game's doing fine. I have so many players. I'm earning money. Why do I need blockchain? And then I would explain like because it offers true ownership. It's the only technology that allows your players to truly own the sword that he bought or he earned within your game. And he can take that sword away and bring it anywhere else and trade it and earn money from it. Not from a black market. This time it's legit. He can take it out of your game. And then, that makes them think. Like they'd always think as Web3 or blockchains. Scam, you know. That's why it's actually frowned upon for some of the traditional gamers. It's simply because they don't understand why they need our technology. So I guess again, the best way to explain Web3 or blockchain, a non-native, is basically explain the benefits and make them understand why it's beneficial or why it's needed. Uh,
I think like one of the systemic challenges as well is that blockchain in general is very intuitive. Like most of the apps or most of the programs that are built on blockchain actually require like knowledge and how to actually operate them. And I think this is a systemic change that still needs to happen. Because for example, right now in Web2, when you open a website, it's very simple. It's very friendly. Like even your grandmother can access it because like the steps are there. It's clear to you that you have to click next, you have to click submit. But right now for blockchain, we don't have. So I think like there also needs like on top of education, there also kind of has to be like that shift into better UX, like making it more simple. Actually,
Last week I was in WSB. It's a dance contest, but it was sponsored by different crypto projects such as YGG and other crypto projects. And it's actually a nice approach wherein it's a dance contest. It isn't a crypto related, but they sponsored it. And seeing your logos in different in their tarpaulins or whatever of course me. For example, I'm a dancer and then I saw YGG. What is YGG? I'm gonna search it on the internet. So like I think if you're not into crypto, if a guild or a crypto project is sponsored in your event that is not really crypto related, I think it's one thing to really reach the mind or really reach more people.
True, advertising. So it works in Web 2 and Web 3. Any other question? Yes.
A question lang with uh, Miss Marian discussed earlier about the projects that will be flagged by SEC, or is it be seen as security or no? Since I've been in a project, Web3 project, and we are a US-based company. It is called RNS ID. We provide Web3 legal ID. It's actually the first. So right now we only have one market. It is an OpenSea. So is it like if you have um, our NFT is alam mo yun,
I think I get your question.
yeah,
So
it
you're wondering if just the fact that you're selling on one marketplace will be taken against.
yeah. Do we like need other markets as well or not?
Okay. So I will clear that up, ha. Maybe it came out that way. But with no, the immediate answer is no. You don't have to go on another marketplace simply because your company doesn't control agency. The reason for NBA Moment or Top Shot is that it was actually also Dapper Labs that controls Flow, where you could sell the NFTs. So the reasoning of the court was that if Flow as the company goes down, no one's gonna maintain that. All your NFTs are gonna lose value. So that's how it was explained there. So no, it's not the fact that it's only being sold in one marketplace.
Let's go.
Right. So there's no other question. I'd like to invite the lady. Yeah. Yeah. Please.
Hello, good evening. My question would be in evaluating an NFT project or just looking into investing in an asset, crypto asset. In your experience, what are the red flags that you can share with us, and so that people who are just starting to venture, at least they already know it in their path.
So go ahead. I'll add.
Actually, she already said something about it earlier. Like you really have to check out the team or the developer of that NFT project because most of them are actually undocked. And if you're an NFT developer and you've been documented, it's your it's your name. Are you gonna just scam people? So it's actually one way to really look at the developer behind that NFT project, and if they are credible, or they have this title, they have the credibility. I think they will not scam you. I think they will really develop something out of those funds that they got acquired.
Other things that you can check on is that maybe research on, let's say, their social media, like maybe their Twitter feeds or their Discord, etc. And you can see the type of exchanges. Sometimes you'll be able to detect their bots. Let's say the answers in Twitter or Discord can be a little bit similar. So those are probably bots. And many times a lot of the project they buy bots so that you will have, let's say, instead of an organic few thousand Twitter followers, you can easily jump to 5 or 10,000. But a lot of them are bots. And someone comments, there's an automatic answer. And sometimes you can tell the pattern because it's not organic, it's a little bit similar the way they answer, especially also for this part. So those are the things to look out for. Also, this is just in general state also. When you, I remember because it happened to me, when you're let's say looking for a project, no, let's say if it pops up in your feed, whether in Google as an ad, or be careful not to click on it, check it first because sometimes there's a little bit misspelling. I or an O or a dash. So sometimes these are fake sites. And when you click on them, it really looks like the real site. So be careful. So maybe one way to do it is to type the address of the project itself, type it in Google so that you're the one putting in the letters instead of clicking on something that may try to duplicate, the how maybe a spelling or website looks. So it's one of the ways of them. A lot of them. So a lot of the the scam, the fighting, the phishing that happens in web are very, very web 2. Very, very web 2. They try to send you a link, they try to get your password, they try to email you, they try to it's very, very web 2. So if we follow the same uh, safety precautions that all the banks tell us, don't give out OTP, don't click this, don't check everything, check the website, that it's BDO and not something. So it's very similar common sense to Web 2. We follow that also for Web 3 that can help us. Yes.
To add to what you guys said, well, personally, before I invest in any NFT, apart from the founders and the sites where they're being offered, I guess check the roadmap. I mean, the utility of what's the plan. I mean, is it just a profile picture, or maybe is there like a roadmap ahead, or some, especially if they're doing a collab with another famous project, then that's probably more legit, right? I mean, it's more long term. So I guess that's also one of the things you check.
Hey.
Can I add
Hey.
something? Yeah, you have to check the roadmap, but NFT art are actually just art. So it's really up to you if you're just gonna buy something. It's like you for example, you're a collector of a painting. Yeah. You bought a painting and then you just display it in your house. So it's up to you. Like NFT art is also like that. Um NFT art you can just buy it and then you use it as your profile picture. But yeah, some of NFTs are really does really have utility. And it's up to you if you're gonna invest in an NFT art that has a utility or an NFT art that is just an NFT art. So I think yeah, it's really up to you because you're the one holding your money.
Anyone else? Hey.
My question is to Attorney Marian. So, as you know, there are some cases in the U.S. With the SEC, with the CF, what's that? The CFTC, and there are also some movements in regulation also in Europe with the CBDCs and all. So my question is, these particular things that are happening there in the regulations there, in your in your history with law, how does the decisions there affect the laws that are being made here in the Philippines?
So off the top of my head, I can think of two things. So one, usually Philippine case law, especially for securities, we don't actually have a lot of securities cases decided here. They try to kind of look at how it was decided in the US. It's not binding, so it doesn't say that if it was decided in the US this way, it's also going to be decided in the Philippines this way. But it's persuasive. It's persuasive. Evidence to see like how you would decide, especially since as I mentioned earlier, the how we test or the four elements for determining what the security is the same here in the Philippines. The second thing is usually the Philippines is a FATF country, the Financial Action Task Force. So basically, it's an intergovernmental or international organization between several countries, which actually imposes financial standards. And what usually happens is that they come up with a list or with a guide that they request certain countries to implement, and then as a member country, we implement that. So we've actually already like did this before. So we initially had our own definition of what virtual assets are. And then eventually we had to change it to actually reflect the expanded definition from the Yeah. Yeah. So like those are things like how like laws from other countries, or especially the US and Europe, eventually they get implemented. I hope that answers.
All right. Uh, yes.
Question is for Attorney Marian, and I think um, about the current SDG collapse that happened, and actually because of that, the crypto regulations here like got pushed back. I think they would be making some sort of updates with that one. Is that something that related to that kasi nga, di ba, nag-collapse and then na-push back yung regulations natin.
For that, I do not have any insight since I am not a government regulator. And we've actually had a draft tech rules for digital asset exchanges, crypto, etc. But they haven't been. Well, I think there's one that's been released, but like in general, no, not yet. And unfortunately, no, I cannot. I cannot give an answer for that. It's like I do not have any insight as to what the regulators are thinking right now. But I don't think it would be far fetched to think or to perceive that there's definitely going to be like a crackdown and regulation. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, everyone. All right. So maybe I'd like to ask for closing remarks from the ladies. Any words or thoughts you have moving forward for 2020? Maria.
I just like to thank everyone for staying and for all your wonderful questions.
Yeah, thank you one for coming. And I can see some real deal members here. So thank you so much. That's it. I
Thank you. And yeah, I guess I'd like to say that, I mean, there or wherever, I mean, a positive outlook would always help the industry, right? Let's look forward to, growing the industry, mass adoption, regardless of what happens. I mean, regulatory decisions happen. I mean, let's move this industry forward.
And for me, I'd like to thank everyone. I think it's been amazing hour or hour and a half with these two ladies. We started here chatting, and I already knew that it would be a very interesting discussion, and I really learned a lot because we all came from different cultures and different experiences. So thank you very much to the ladies, and I'm so happy to be connected with them. Thank you to all of you, and I hope you all have a great night. Thank you, everyone.
So thank you everyone for attending. For those that would like to know more about our event, again, the YouTube we're gonna have your talk, guys. So, if you everyone come to your talk.